So one thing we do as inspectors is go into places that most people don't want to go into.
So every inspector has got to have some pretty good stories, right?
This fungus will grow on their bodies and it makes them look larger and all of their joints are puffed up.
Can you estimate about how many inspections you've done since that first one?
Oh my
if you had
gosh.
to guess.
At least 1,000.
Hi, I'm Rachel Xavier from the Xavier Group, Keller Williams, and I'm here today with local home inspector Ben Crawford.
Hey Rachel, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm excellent.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
First, I wanted to go over a little bit about you and how you got here today and just some basic information.
Well, I actually grew up in Nevada, so a long ways from here.
Like Vegas.
Yes, like Vegas. I try to leave that out. Ended up meeting my girlfriend, now wife, in San Diego, California, which I lived there for a long time. She's from Massachusetts, so we actually came out here and visited New Hampshire about 15 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and I fell in love with this area. So we started looking into this area and found that the schools were great, cost of living was great.
Yep.
I mean, it's still great, but back then it was very cheap. Able to get into an entry-level home for an affordable price, especially for our age and what we were doing with our lives at the time. So it checked all the boxes. So we didn't move right away.
Yeah.
We moved out here, we bought a place with you.
Oh, that's right.
In
Yes, you did.
2015. So yeah, we started looking in 2014 for real.
Yes.
I actually called you on one of your listings over on Pinecrest.
In Guilford.
Yep, it was on like that Laconia-Guilford line, which I had no idea where that was. Now I know it very well. So we liked the house, we called you on it, and yeah, you kind of steered us in a direction to find what we really needed and what we were looking for.
I remember we looked at a lot of houses.
Yeah, so it was that
Which was
spring.
great.
Yeah.
You got to see a little bit of everything, all different areas and neighborhoods and,
Yeah. No, honestly, I mean, thank God for, realtors like you that do what you do, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have seen everything that we saw. I mean, you showed us Belmont, you showed us Gilmanton, we went to Guilford, we were in Laconia, we were in Meredith. So we saw everything, and we ended up finding a really wonderful house for a great price, and we bought it.
That was a great house.
Yeah.
It was a great house.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So then, now let's talk about, you are a home inspector. You have a great background in lots of different things. I know that. Still today, I call you on questions and I still can't stump you. I'm not, I'm just saying you are very, very knowledgeable. So you decided to go that route and become a home inspector.
I did, and honestly, I decided to become a home inspector after going through the home buying process. I thought that I was going to get into real estate, and I thought about going through that process and becoming a realtor, but I thought with my background in different building facets,
Right.
Firefighting, so I went to school and I got a degree in fire science. Part of that comes with structural engineering, fire science, which you actually study how buildings burn, how they're put together. So there's a lot that goes into it.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so I'm not an engineer, but it's something that it was a big part of our training in learning how buildings are put together so that we can safely extinguish them.
So with all of that background, I feel like that was easily put into switching gears to start a different career.
It was, and I also had the opportunity as a firefighter to work in a lot of different trades. So construction, masonry, all sorts of stuff.
Right.
So when you get to see it, put your hands on it, and then study it, I feel like it really gives you a better understanding of how everything works.
So somebody that's buying a home with me, they would like to have a home inspection. Would you recommend them having a home inspection? And basically, what does that look like? You speaking with them and then you coming in and going over that whole process. How does that look?
For my recommendations that they should definitely do. We saw a lot of home inspections get waived back during COVID
and
because everything
everything.
got so competitive, and now we're seeing a lot of people where that's kind of biting them, where they close a deal, great, you got your house. However, now you're finding thousands of dollars worth of things that need to be fixed, where you could have taken care of that up front for a minimal cost.
Right.
So I always recommend people to get a home inspection, whether you're on the buying side of it, whether you're on the selling side of it.
I was going to say, so just quickly, should sellers get a pre-listing home inspection? Is that a good idea?
I would recommend it, and not just because I'm biased and I work in the field. I myself would inspect a home, or have someone inspect it before I sold it, because it's going to give you a list of things that either you can take care of yourself prior to selling, or that you could know is coming.
I think that on the seller's side, that gives them more power.
Absolutely.
Because they already know all that, the negotiating power. So I think that is really helpful.
100%, it's leverage.
Right. And then on the other side, I do feel like it's very good to at least know what you're going into, because I've seen a lot of people use home inspection reports as just a list for them, a punch list for them. They're like, I'm buying this house, but I want to do an inspection, so I have a punch list so I can go in after and get all those items, remedy all those items. So
Right.
it's very useful regardless, not just a negotiation tactic.
100%. And I'm glad that you said that, because I've had a lot of clients over the years that have done just that. Mm-hmm. They'll take my inspection report, maybe call me 2 years later and say, hey, Ben, I was just going over this report and I was fixing some things on the house and I had a question for you about it. And I get that a lot. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a wonderful tool to have as a homeowner. I myself, if I didn't work in the field, I would want to have that.
Right.
Especially buying a used home, because you don't know what's going to go.
What's funny is that I sold a home in Center Harbor to some amazing folks, and you did the home inspection. I want to say it was like 7 years ago. And I just resold it for them because they ended up moving to Connecticut. And they took out your inspection, and I think they called you, asked you a couple of questions. So it's just funny how that works. And they still had it. They loved everything you did and wanted to ask you a few questions before we listed it, on the other way around.
I do remember that.
Great.
And I'm happy that they did.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that I work for, you can call me anytime. Mm-hmm. If it's a week from now, if it's a month from now, if it's 7 years from now, give me a ring. I'm
Maybe not at like midnight.
Not at midnight.
But
yeah.
Years from now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
no, 100%. Yeah, I think that it's really important to be able to trust, who's doing the inspection for you, trust what they're doing is correct, and be able to use them again.
So do you remember your first inspection ever?
I do. I remember it very well.
Wait, do you remember how many years ago that was?
It was almost 10 years ago now.
Okay.
And I remember it like it was yesterday, because I learned a lot from it. My first inspection was a 1950s era home. It was waterfront. It had a wet basement. It had some issues in the attic. It had some issues on the roof. It had some issues on the siding. So
it had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
It had a lot of, things came up. Yes.
But things that are also common with older homes, waterfront homes. The people that were selling it had done a lot of the legwork already to fix some of those things. So it was a good investment opportunity. However, not having the experience that I have now with how to convey defects and how to properly communicate to someone what's really going on,
Right.
it sounded like it was a scary place to buy. When in reality, honest to God, I would buy that house today, exactly in the condition that it was in, just because of what it was and where it was.
So since then, can you estimate about how many inspections you've done since that first one?
Oh my
if you had
gosh.
to guess.
At least 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So as with anything, the more you do something, the better you get at it.
Right.
There's a lot to be said for school. There's a lot to be said for training. There's a lot to be said for learning about
experience. You've had
Yes.
so much experience at this point.
That's what it is. It's experience.
Right.
So the more time you spend doing things, the better you get at doing them. And the more you realize what's serious, what's not serious. It's something that I've gotten a lot better at with the years that I've been doing it now is knowing when it's time to say, hey, this is a big deal, guys. Like, we need to stop. We need to look at this, and this could be either something you need to take on and have a lot of financial backing to fix it, or you step away from this one and say it's not worth my time.
Right.
And, like I said, with years of doing it, I've now learned, okay, like if there's some little defects here and there, we don't need to run it up the flagpole.
Right.
We can convey that in a way where it's like, I understand what's going on, but I also understand that it's fixable. It's not something that's going to kill my pocketbook. And if we want the house, it's something that we can look past and move forward with.
Or certain items that you can let people know they don't have to do them right away.
Right.
It would be something that you'd keep on a list to get done as you live in the property.
Yeah.
There's certain things you have to do right away. There's certain things that you don't have to.
And that's a great point. So what I usually like to do for my clients is triage things. So what's a big deal? What needs to be taken care of now or within the next year or two? And then what's not? What's something that 10 years from now you're going to have a problem with this?
Right.
So maybe start doing some preventative maintenance in this area before it becomes a serious problem.
So every inspector has got to have some pretty good stories, right? So I think myself and everybody out here watching would love to hear some good stories, like gross, scary, just stuff you can't make up. So would you elaborate maybe on a few things that you can think about?
So one thing we do as inspectors is go into places that most people don't want to go into. Tight spots, dark spots, wet spots.
Like crawl spaces, attics,
Yes.
places that
And that's
don't want to
honestly,
go.
That's usually where we will find the most defects, is
Right.
places that aren't readily visible to everyone. So a lot of hot attics, a lot of animals, a lot of insects, a lot of crawl spaces, a lot of wet crawl spaces, a lot of dark spots. I've gotten to the point now where whenever I go into, say it's a bulkhead opening or a crawl space opening, I'll open those up when I first get on site and leave them open.
Let them air out a little.
Just in case, not only for the air, just in case there's something down there, because I've run into animals under houses before and they're
That just pop out at you.
Usually not happy to see me.
I can imagine.
It's not really scary, but to a lot of people it would be scary, especially people that are afraid of spiders. So I grew up out in the desert, and like we have a lot of poisonous insects out there, big spiders, a lot of snakes. So yeah, we used to catch tarantulas when I was looking. So spiders don't bother me. However, there was this one crawl space that I was in, and it was a large house. Couldn't stand up in it, so I was crawling around. And what will happen, especially in moist basements, moist crawl spaces that don't have a lot of ventilation, animals will die, spiders will die, and invertebrates like spiders, once they die and they start to decompose, a lot of times a fungus will grow on them in these basements and crawl spaces. So this fungus, it's very common in wet, like I said, non-ventilated spaces like a basement or a crawl space. This fungus will grow on their bodies, and it makes them look larger, and all of their joints are puffed up. So the spiders, once they die and start to decompose, turn white and get bigger. So they look like zombie spiders. And it took me a couple of times of seeing them to realize that they were dead. I was like, Jesus, they have white zombie spiders in New England? What's going on out here? But they're all dead and decomposing. So I'm in this one crawl space. This is probably like 6 years ago. And I'm crawling around a ton of zombie spiders. They don't bother me at this point. I know what they are. I know they're all dead, so I'm not like worried about them. But there was this one huge alive wolf spider. So wolf spider is like, it's a cousin to a tarantula. So they're not dangerous. Like they can bite you, but they're not poisonous. They're usually pretty docile.
Okay.
This one, however, I'm not kidding you when I say like it was probably about 4 inches, like with its legs.
So like almost the size of someone's hand.
Its body was bigger than a silver dollar. With its legs, it was like this, right? And it got really aggressive and really worried when it saw me in its area, because it obviously had, like, it was the only living thing in there.
Babies?
Yeah, like little nest, little this up in the corner. And it got really worried about me. Usually they'll just sit there, like spiders won't move. This one, however, started moving at me. And I'm crawling, army crawl through this crawl space with like 3 feet of headroom. And I see this thing with my headlamp and I'm like shining my light on it. I don't know if you've ever shined your light on a spider's eyes, but they like...
Not that I can recall.
They reflect, right? So you can see, and like a wolf spider, because its tarantula has like 12 eyes. So it's got these 12 reflecting eyes, and it's like 6 feet away from me. And I'm shining my light on it. I'm kind of like, I'm not that worried, but it's like the fact that it moved and moved from where it was at towards me was like, okay, this is kind of strange. It's like arachnophobia, like the spiders got really aggressive.
And you
like
can't get up and run
I couldn't move except to like reverse army crawl out of where at. So I continue the perimeter of this inspection, like underneath this crawl space, and this thing comes at me on the floor. And I'm like trying to smash it and like trying to move away from it. And this is a massive spider coming at me very aggressively and like freaking out under this crawl space. And finally it kind of left me alone and I was able to get out. But that was probably the worst one, like having a spider try to attack you.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I can see it's protecting its nest, but
yeah. And
still, you weren't there to hurt it. You were just, it just got nervous.
Yeah, and in hindsight, it was a spider. It wasn't a poisonous spider, but I think because of the environment and because of the zombie spiders around and because I couldn't move, it like freaked me out a little bit. Like, get me out of here.
I would want to get out of there.
I will tell you though, after I came out, I did go back in there again and I finished the rest of the perimeter of the crawl space.
So it didn't scare you away to not finish the job?
I'm always going to finish the job. Always going to finish. I just needed a breather. But yeah, that was probably the worst one.
So folks that are currently in the home buying process, what is some advice that you could give them?
Well, I could give a lot of advice. But if I had to pick a couple of things that I've seen over the years that I believe are mistakes that people make, especially from my perspective as an inspector, and especially if they're my client. You know, if you hire an inspector, whether it's me or somebody else in whatever area you're buying in, listen to what they have to say, look at the report, look over the report with your realtor, with your significant other, and if you have questions about that report, reach out to the inspector. I see it so many times where I will go through an inspection with a client. I'll walk them through my findings at the end of the inspection, go over any major stuff with them. And then when I write my reports, there's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of things that we have to put in there for liability reasons that go into an inspection report. So what I've seen in the past is someone will look at that report and see 30 to 40 pages worth of defects and maintenance and this and that. And they're like, oh, this is too much.
Too much, yeah.
You know? And then rather than calling me and saying, hey, I looked over the report, it seems like there's a lot wrong with this property, they'll just either walk away from it or they'll go back to their realtor and say, hey, you know, like my inspector found $50,000 worth of issues on this house. I want that off of the price. It doesn't really work that way.
Right.
I just would like to see people express concerns up front. That's one big piece of advice. Is
Call you, ask questions.
If you've got a question, if you've got a concern, voice it. Don't internalize it and don't, you know, take it and make this already stressful process that you're going through worse. As an inspector, we are here to alleviate some of that stress, really. I mean, we're going to look at something that you're thinking about buying and let you know, hey, this is what's wrong with it. You should feel good about moving forward this purchase, or hey, this is what's wrong with it. You shouldn't feel so good about this, and here's what's going on with it.
Right.
So that's a big one. Another little piece of advice that I've learned myself over the years, especially buying and selling properties, is sleep on something. Mm-hmm. Going back to being stressed out, you know, spending that kind of money, making that kind of a purchase, especially with interest rates changing and, you know, volatility in market and whatnot, and being competitive with trying to close a deal, the last thing you want to do is be pressured to make a decision. So what I've learned is to sleep on something. You know, whether your purchase and sale agreement ends in 12 hours or whatever it is, you know, there's always a way to extend something. Get yourself that time to go, all right, I want to feel good about this. And so I think that's a big piece that I use myself, and if I could pass it on to anybody else, I would say, sleep on your decisions.
I think that's great advice.
Thank you.
Coming from the other end. Ben, thank you so much for being here with us today and answering all of our questions about home inspections.
Thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
To learn more about Crawford home inspections or real estate in general, check out the links in the description.